Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today marks the start of our rankings episodes, Jeff. I think these are the most exciting time of the year for me. It kind of means fantasy football's here, I feel like, in a way. I don't know about you, but
official rankings time.
It's kind of, we're going to do these for the next, 4 weeks? And, people's drafts are going to be coming up here really, really soon. Actually, we have a draft in less than 2 weeks. I know it's really, really early because it's just the way it worked, but people are drafting already. It's that time of year, so we got to get these ranks out, make sure everyone kind of knows. We're going to start with quarterbacks today. This episode, we're going to do our top 15, go 1 through 15, our consensus ranks actually here, but when we do them, we'll tell you where we actually have them both ranked. We're not going to be, we'll be the same on some, but this is a good way to go top 15 guys, like where we think of them together. Before we get to that, make sure you check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet. Go on Instagram or at Fantasy Football Prophet. The website's fantasyfootballprophet.com. You can always send us email questions, fantasyfootballprophet@gmail.com. We've been getting quite a few questions in lately. And actually what we'll do for tomorrow's episode, I think we're going to do a little mini mailbag with all the questions that have come in. So if you sent us a question in the last week or so, don't worry. We're going to get to it definitely on tomorrow's episode. I know there's Charles out there, Aiden, Mike, just to name a few. You guys have all your questions coming up tomorrow's episode. So we got some good ones there. Get a wide variety of topics to go over. Best ball strategy, different keeper strategy, just all kinds of different stuff. But actually, Jeff, before we get into the episode, I thought maybe we should talk about some news here quick. Just a couple of things coming down the wire today. You hear this Carlos Hyde thing came out today? This is like only an hour old at this point.
I was going to say, I have not.
I guess it's still speculation, but it's still bad speculation. It's Greg Rosenthal from Around the NFL, his podcast. He says that he's heard Carlos Hyde could be a surprise training camp cut. Right?
Oh, man. No.
I've said this before, in the offseason, I don't really pay attention too much to good news you hear, but if there's bad news and it's constant bad news, something is up. That's getting scary.
That would throw everything out of whack.
I'm happy we're not doing running back ranks today because...
Yeah. Not to mention if he gets cut, first of all, San Francisco's, you have no idea what's going to happen there. Is it going to be Williams? Is it going to be... And then,
Hightower.
Yeah, and then Hyde can be picked up by teams, and there's quite a few teams that could absolutely use him. So that'd be very interesting. It might be the best thing for him. He might actually jump up my board again after all this negative publicity. He's been kind of falling a little bit.
At this point, it's weird because it's it can either go two ways if you draft him. You're going to get a steal because he's going to drop with all this negativity, all this negative news coming out, and you're going to get a steal later on. Or you're going to draft him still higher than you should, and he's actually going to get cut, and you're just going to be screwed. I feel like it's one of those two things at this point. You're going to get a steal, because if he plays and he's the starter, he's going to be a steal where he's going to be drafted, because he's going to drop even further now. But, man, just a lot of just interesting news around Carlos Hyde.
I wonder where that actually comes from, though. Is it he actually is watching him play, or is it just the fact that it's the body language?
There must just, I feel like there's just obviously we have nothing to go off. It feels like there's some kind of personality conflict between him and Shanahan, because it's been since day one, since the start of mini camps and OTAs, and it's just been bad news. There must be something that Shanahan doesn't like. There's no other reason for this stuff to get out there. It just doesn't sound good. As much as talented as I think he is, it doesn't feel like the right situation. But
it really doesn't
anymore. It worries me. It worries me.
He'll find a home somewhere, though.
He's good enough, but I'll just wait and see. I'm going to kind of hold off on drafting him. He's probably going to be dropping in my ranks now, just because who knows. A little bit other news, not really anything major. CSN Phillies, Reuben Frank said that he expects Wendell Smallwood to have a pretty significant role with the Eagles.
I did read this, and
it ties in with my trending down LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means.
I don't either.
Isn't Ryan Matthews still officially on the team? They haven't cut him yet. I don't know what's going on with that.
That whole backfield
they need
is
to cut him.
Pretty messed right now. So you still have Sproles, Blount, him, Smallwood, Pumphrey, and so I think that one's wide open. That one might be a kind of the first waiver place to hit when week 1-2 comes and you figure out who's actually going to get the dominant carries in that backfield.
Robert Griffin's working out with the Chargers tomorrow. Later today, actually. We were recording this on Monday night. This will be out Tuesday morning. So he's on Tuesday, he's working out with them. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope he finds a home. That'd be good.
Cowboys waived Lucky Whitehead. Big news.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch, they said, Jimmy Durkin from the San Jose Mercury News says he thinks the Raiders will hold him under 200 carries this year, which I can see. That's kind of why I'm not as big on Lynch. As he's not a safe player. He's going to be very touchdown dependent. I think that's just kind of showing that more.
Yeah.
That's what I think we thought he was.
Yeah, if he's healthy, though, I think he's going to – I think it'll be pretty easy for him to get, double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's
if that's going to be his role.
You are going to be banking on touchdowns if you draft Lynch. Hopefully he's your running back 2 and not your running back 1.
That's what we've been saying.
Well, other than that, there's really not much going on. Training camps are just starting to open up a little bit here. We're going to get more and more news. Next week we'll have probably quite a bit. Oh, there was the Andrew Luck news. They started him on preseason on the PUP list, which doesn't really mean anything right now. It does, but it's not the PUP list, at least for the season, which would put him out 6 games. But they still think he should be ready for week 1. But there's going to be no way any of us will know that until week 1. So,
and let's be honest, it already affected our list. This one we're about to go into a little bit,
and it probably the later it goes on in the season, it might affect it more.
Yeah. Because the fact that he hasn't thrown, we don't know what that arm is.
Yep.
I mean that's pretty big news. Actually,
it is. It's worrisome news
Yeah.
at the very least. All right, let's get right into the list then. Number 1 coming in this year, Aaron Rodgers. No surprise. We both had him number 1. Kind of expected that. We don't talk about him very much because there isn't much to talk about. He's the best quarterback in the league, I believe, fantasy and real life wise. He's just the best quarterback. He's going to put up the best numbers. He has great weapons. Nelson, Adams. I still think Cobb's going to do something. Martellus Bennett now. Ty Montgomery. Man, they have everything.
The open and shut case of Aaron Rodgers being your number 1 quarterback, it is a no-brainer, but 7 out of the last 9 years, he was either quarterback 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And one of those years that he wasn't, he was hurt.
And he was still 21st.
Yeah.
And then the other year was 2015, and he was 7th overall.
Yep.
So, if 7th is the worst you're possibly going to do, more than likely 2 is the worst you're going to do. Yep. So he's extremely safe.
Basically, the only thing to talk about with Rodgers is where do you draft him? This is where our strategy of waiting on quarterbacks can be different. Do you go we drafted him in a mock draft in the 3rd round in one of ours.
Yeah. If you don't it really comes down to what you already have. And
I think it gives you a big advantage, especially in 6-point touchdown leagues. 4-point touchdown leagues, not as much, but we tip, and other people, as we go off this list, this is based off a 6-point touchdown league, which we play in, which I feel like that should be the way it is. Yeah. Touchdowns are worth 6 points. It should be worth 6 points.
Makes more sense to me.
That's, 3rd round is still a little bit of a reach unless you're at the back end of the 3rd.
That was kind of unusual. I really don't feel bad. If there's no one there in the 4th, and 5th, I think is a no-brainer.
Yeah, 5th, no-brainer for sure, and I'd definitely consider the 4th.
But I think 4th is safe.
Auction-wise, what kind of $200 budget? What kind of money are you looking? 30 is, off the top of my head, I'm thinking 30, because I don't like to spend on quarterback, but I think I'd go up to 30 on Rodgers if everything else was working right. Just him. That's it. I wouldn't go there's no other quarterback I'd even come close to. But I don't think I'd go up to 30 in the way I do it. But if somebody did, I'd be okay, sure.
Yeah. My problem with that, too, is you don't want people in an auction situation to get a steal on a guy, especially like that. So I would, high 20s, I would go up there just to make sure that they don't get that. Yep. And then I could see him going, I could see myself spending perhaps up to 32, probably my limit there. Because he really is, and it depends on how much money who I have already. Once again, totally on a basis of the situation. But I think for me, I would say, safe $28, $29.
Yep. And if you're in an auction keeper league and you already have some good value, you can spend and go after him. If you're in a worse situation, keeper wise and auction wise, maybe you don't, but it just depends on your situation. But he's worth it, I think. So.
Yeah.
All right, move on to number 2. We both had him number 2. It's Tom Brady. And actually, I'll say our top 5 is actually identical. So, Tom Brady's our number 2. It's the same kind of thing. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Has great weapons around him if they're healthy. If Gronk can stay healthy, then you got Cooks and Edelman and everybody else. All those pass-catching running backs. Who knows which one they're going to use. The only worry with Brady is he's going to be 40 years old when the season starts. I guess that's it. That's the only worry. Because we're saying that we don't expect him to fall off, but did you expect Peyton Manning to fall off? That's the only thing I can think of is we didn't expect that to happen to Peyton Manning necessarily.
Yeah.
He had more injury history though. That's the difference.
I was going to say his arm, we kind of knew about the shoulder issues and,
that's the difference. Yeah.
The numbness in his fingers and so on. And, just because Brady, a lot of these guys in the beginning have a kind of a long history, so we can actually look back at the data. And it's very easy when you look at Brady since 2005. He's only been outside of the top 8 3 times. Yep. Once when he only played 1 game and he blew his knee out. The other time was last year because he was suspended for 4 games. I apologize. And he was 17th still. Yep. And then the other time, there's one time that he was outside the top 8. Really, and he was number 14, and that was in 2013, and he played all 16 games. But other than that, he was at least 8th, and usually he's within the top 4. Yep. So once again, extremely safe. And we saw if he can do what he did last year, he pretty much has the same weapons, but now you possibly have a healthy Gronk for the entire season, and you throw in Coach. So his weapons are way better.
They are. They're going to be great. Yeah, the team's going to be better.
Exactly.
I think.
And it's just built around him, specifically now too, like it has been for how many years. But
all right, number 3. We'll just keep moving. Mm-hmm. Number 3, it's Drew Brees. We both had him number 3. You just recently switched this from Ryan to Brees. You come over onto the Brees side.
Yeah. I had to. I was so close on what their final numbers were going to be. I had to end up going for the safer pick, and Brees is by far the safer pick. And once again, dating all the way back to 2004, the guy hasn't been outside the top 10.
Yep.
That is mind-blowing to me. And last year he was 3rd. 2 years before that he was 6th, then 2nd, 1st, 2nd. So he's unbelievable. He did lose Cooks, but I think Willie Snead can step up. I think he can replace a lot of that. I think he's going to be incredibly solid. I think you're a guaranteed top 5 guy. And he's also very, very durable, which is pretty crazy. I mean, even Brady blew out his knee before. Aaron Rodgers is the only other one. He's been hobbled a little bit, but he's the only other one that I can think of that has had a very clean bill of health. And Matt Ryan, he's had one very good year. He stepped up. And I do worry a little bit that, his offensive coordinator left for San Fran. I still think he'll be very, very good, but I had to rank Brees ahead of him. So
yeah, and with Brees, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily matter who his receivers are sometimes. He's been good with whoever, when Colston was the number 1, Jimmy Graham was basically the number 1. It's just, he's made everyone else around him good, and I think it's going to continue. Snead's going to have a good year. Thomas have a good year.
It kind of seems bulletproof.
It's just a very safe option, I feel like. Very, very safe. I'm still not, after Rodgers though, I'm not reaching too much. Even auction, I'm not spending more than 15 on either of these guys. Brady, Brees, I'm not doing it. 15's my limit.
No, I wouldn't either. But, I can see they're probably going to go for more than that.
Yeah, it's just that's where I'm at.
Right.
At that point, I'm still I like some of the players down the list. So yeah, that's what I'd go
But to be fair, I think that shows you, though, Aaron Rodgers is a tier 1 on his own. And then we have Brady, Brees, and then obviously as we get to these next guys, we'll kind of tell you where it cuts off.
Next one is, of course, Matt Ryan. We both have him 4, and this is a change for me. And it actually happened today with the Andrew Luck news. I had a Luck 4 before, and I moved him down 1 spot. I still think he'll be fine, but it's just enough of a worry that Ryan gets that 1 extra spot for me. Mm-hmm. Just because we're not going to see Luck play until week 1. He's not going to get any work till week 1. It's not even necessarily that he won't be ready for week 1. It's that he's going to see no game action in the preseason, barely any work in the training camps. It feels like it's going to take him a minute to get into it,
Yeah, you have to think that he will be rusty coming off of it. And, there's a lot. Touch, how hard can you actually throw the ball if he doesn't have the velocity he usually does? That is a lot to worry about. And Matt Ryan is going to have the supporting cast who might be the best supporting cast I've seen since, I don't know, like back in the day with the Rams or something. Like,
my worry with Matt Ryan is last year, is that just going to be an anomaly? Is that just a 1-year breakout and he's going to fall back down to earth like Cam Newton did? Like, the weird thing is, Ryan had a lot more history of just being a good quarterback. He had what? 4, let's see here. How many years is that? 8 years where he was never better than 7th in those 8 years. He was top 10 for the 7 years. And he's always been okay. He's been a usable quarterback. And last year he became the number 2 quarterback.
Yep.
Without Shanahan there running the offense, is it going to be quite the same?
I do wonder if he's going to, was this jump the actual jump that we perceived it as, or is it the fact how good the offense was, how much they relied on Ryan? Mm-hmm. I mean, it might be even more so this year. You know what I mean? Like, obviously they have a very talented backfield as well, but you also have Julio. Tevin Coleman catches a ton of passes out of the backfield. You have possibly an emerging tight end who is very, very big and athletic. And then you have very quality wide receivers to fill out your second and third. So there's no reason he should plummet like a Cam Newton. Yeah. But I think he probably will regress a bit. And hence why I have Tom Brady above him, and hence why Drew Brees jumped above him as well. I think it would be very hard for him to put up those numbers again.
It feels like he's been around for a long time too, but he'll be 32 this year with quarterbacks the way they've been playing and how long they've been playing. He has plenty of years to be a good quarterback left. A lot of them.
Oh yeah, and I think he has been a relatively safe pick anyway. And we saw that, like you said, 4 out of 6 years he was top 10.
Yep. So at the worst, he's gonna be fine. But that's the thing. This is where I get where I'm like, okay, unless I get a value on him and I'm getting him for a good auction price of under $10 and I have some money to spend, or I'm getting him later in a snake draft. At this point, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wait.
Yep.
And this is where the point where I just wait. It's really after Rodgers, Brady, Brees. I'm just kind of, no, I'm waiting.
Yeah, those top 3 are as safe as you can possibly get. They've shown you over and over and over with many different wide receivers. And this is, so I would almost say, would you agree? It's like Aaron Rodgers on his own,
yep.
Brady, Brees, and then these next few, if you will.
Yeah, basically then it's Ryan Luck for me, and then the next tier starts again. That's kind of where I'm at. Which the next tier is going to start with Kirk Cousins. He is our 6th quarterback.
I love that.
That's probably a little higher than most people would have him. I have him 9th. You had him 6th. He ends up being 6th based off our consensus. And we've talked about him a lot, actually. And the more you talk about it, the more you look at these other guys around him. Yeah, we like some of the guys below him, some of these younger guys coming up, but they haven't done it yet. Cousins has been a great quarterback. He just, without necessarily maybe the touchdowns yet, the yards are there.
Well, that's the scary thing. He did this. I mean, he was 5th last year, so he was in the top 5. He did this, and I realized Tom Brady was suspended, so he would probably jump above him. But he was 5th last year with a very low touchdown kind of total for the amount of yards he did have.
Yep.
So you have high-end yards, which usually, transfers itself into TDs, which it didn't last year. So he actually has room to move up, which is the scary part about him. And if you ask me, he has a better situation as far as wide receivers. I think he's younger, a little more explosive, and then hopefully Reed can stay healthy for him, and then that absolutely makes the wide receiving core that he has this year, all the receivers, I should say, better than what he had last year.
He's been a starter for 2 seasons. He's been top 10 both years. Number 8, actually, and number, 5? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He doesn't get the respect of a player. I feel like that's there. Obviously, Washington doesn't want to give him the long-term deal. But the way it came down, he was actually originally my 12th when I first started this, and I've moved him up to 9th now. I moved him up a few spots. So, he's good. He really is. And at least fantasy-wise, he should have better weapons around him this year. I think it's an upgrade going from Jackson and Garcon to putting Pryor in there.
Yeah.
And getting Crowder a bigger role and Doxson a bigger role, that's a better option. And Reed, if Reed's healthy, that's huge.
That's the big one.
That's the biggest part of this is if Reed's healthy, then for sure think Cousins is up there. The nice thing is you're not going to have to spend for Cousins anyway. Even though we have him ranked 6th, you're not going to really have to spend much in an auction to get him. Nothing that'll break your budget, obviously. And in a snake draft, he's going to go down below probably some of these guys we have coming up next.
Yeah.
Number 7, Ben Roethlisberger. Made our top 7. He is 7th for me and 8th for you. And this is one I was torn on. And it ended up being, I think Roethlisberger's been an okay quarterback. How many years has Roethlisberger played in the league here? 13 seasons.
I was going to say, he's been around forever.
13 seasons. He has 3 top 10 seasons. That's where I was really, really, really torn on putting him up here. And the more I did it, though, I'm like, I don't want to have him ahead of some of these. I don't want to have him behind him in some of these younger guys yet. And this is kind of based off of if he plays a full season and he's healthy with Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, with Le'Veon Bell. he's going to be a top 10 guy if he plays the whole year. It's what it is.
His injuries is hard because even last year I think he missed out on 2 games. Yeah. So that shows why he ended up 14th instead of, and these guys they get really jumbled. At least last year, the numbers were very, very close, anywhere from 6 to pretty much, 15, 16. So you can jump up relatively quickly with a few more touchdowns, especially so if he actually played 2 more games, he would have jumped a lot of these guys, and he probably would have been right about where we're saying he should go. The other thing I love about Roethlisberger, because especially when you get this nitty-gritty about points down here, the fact is, especially at home, when healthy, the guy puts up giant points at home. Yep. He can really make or break a week for you. And it kind of goes for the inverse as well, right? So when he's on the road, he's much more of a risky play. But I think because you can actually kind of figure out when he's going to have a better chance of having those big games, you can plan around it. And I like that ability compared to a young guy like Mariota, which could go off one game for no apparent reason other than he got one scramble, for 20 yards and a touchdown. So I like the fact that he's a little more predictable than some of the younger guys coming up.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I just decided, if he's healthy, he's going to be good. And I'm just going to hope he's healthy. He's never played 16 games. He's only played 16 games 3 of his 13 seasons. But he's never played less than 12. Okay. So he's not like he's missed crazy stretches of the season. Yeah. So there's that. It's always these minor injuries that he toughs through. You're not going to have to spend too much to get him. That's another thing. This isn't going to make or break. If you're going the Ben Roethlisberger route anyway, you were already going to take this, waiting on quarterback thing anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and that if you get someone like Roethlisberger, you absolutely need a backup. Yep. And it's kind of nice going into it knowing that because you can get a very quality backup at the end of the draft anyway.
Yep. All right. Number 8 is Russell Wilson for us. You have him 11th.
Yeah.
I have him 6th.
I have him 11th, and I thought that was pretty gracious.
Weeks 10 through 17 last season, he was the 6th quarterback in the league. As much as you think he had a bad season, he was the 6th quarterback the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, he turned it on. He finally got healthy.
I think that's where he's going to be. He's going to be, and that's actually
still worries me a bit.
Points per game. He was the 6th quarterback. Listen, he was behind Rodgers, Luck, Cousins, Ryan, Brady. That's it. The guys we have him ahead of, or ahead of him there. And that's it. He was the last 8 games, he had 0.7 points more per game than Drew Brees did.
I mean, yeah, and that's awesome. But you can always look at stats, and especially at the end when you're going down, when you are doing a stretch of games instead of like a Roethlisberger where we're like, if you just take his home games. It's very true. Russell Wilson, it's not the fact that I really worry about his talent necessarily, but there's a couple of things that I felt were red flags. First of all, he did play very poorly, and I realized he was banged up. But at the same time, you have to bring that into account a bit. Also, if Lockett can't get healthy, he's Baldwin, very capable number 1 guy, but at the same time, does anyone take him seriously as a primetime number 1 wide receiver? The way people rank him, they don't really. And then you have Curse. Jimmy Graham is really good, but I also think that they're finally going to have somewhat of a healthy backfield. And I think that is going to help them be a little more balanced, where I think last year after he got a little more healthy, I think they could rely on him a little more. So I don't think he'll have to quite be that high in the numbers. I think he's very solid. I like him a lot, but I do worry about him after the fluctuation after the last couple of years only.
Well, it's really, I think I look at it as he was just hurt at the beginning of the year. Weeks 1 through 9, he was 21st ranked. Weeks 10 through 17, he was 6th. He got healthy. And he was back to Russell Wilson. He was hurt. He had ankle injuries. Weeks 1 through 9.
I worry how much he still runs.
But even without the running, he was without getting the running stats. He's the number.
Well, I feel like when he was hobbled, that's when he couldn't get the running stats, and that's when he was not the 6th quarterback.
Yep. But once he was healthy, he was that. So if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be there. If you want to take the last 4 weeks, he was even better. I can really break it down here. If you want to take the last 4 weeks, he was a little better. He was the 4th best, I think, at the end there. But he got healthy, and I think that's what we're going to see from Wilson this year. So I have him 6th, but he's our 8th. So that's just we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, and I don't know. I worry him too because you have to take into consideration the big games he had as well. Like I said, I still think he'll be good, but he had 41 points, depending on your scoring, against Arizona in the final week, which is great if you made the playoffs. But if he was your starting quarterback, he might have not gotten there. So the Giant games do, I think, skew that number a little bit. Yep. But I get your point. Like, he does have the talent. Everyone knows that. Yep. That's why he was so high last year. Unfortunately, being hobbled for the first half of the season did really affect his numbers.
We'll see what happens, I guess, with his health. And if he comes back, I kind of think he will. So I think we might have to have a little Wilson versus somebody here coming up. And our number 9 player is Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. I have him 10th. You have him 7th. I'm kind of cooling on Derek Carr a little bit. Just
what are you like?
I mean, he hasn't. What has he really done yet?
Well, he was 9th last year.
There's a lot of injury. It was only because Brady's hurt. Brady would pass it, but that's it. I mean, that's where he is.
But that's
where I have him 10th.
Yeah, so I guess that's fine.
I had him 6th, and I've dropped him to 10th.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. I mean, it's not a huge drop, and I mean that's fine. I like Derek Carr. I think
he's going to be solid. I just don't.
His upside kind of intrigues me, and especially I like the Crabtree Cooper duo. Yep. I think especially with Lynch there, even if he's not going to get 200 carries, you can kind of think that their backfield will get enough carries to keep everyone, not loading the box and kind of make sure that they're playing a very
maybe
balanced team.
I'm Lynch. That's one of the things I think I'm worried about is that whole team and Lynch.
Could be if he turns into a vulture instead of him trying to throw it to Crabtree or Cooper when they're in the red zone. I mean, it's quite possible.
I just,
but we both agree that he's going to be a top 10 guy. We think
maybe. I don't even. You
think he might slide even further?
He could.
What are you cooling about then?
I just don't think he's as good as people think he is. As like actual quarterback wise, I just don't think he's okay. He's just not.
Right.
I don't know if he's that level of those other guys, which people are trying to group him in with yet, and even.
Are you talking about the younger guys coming up?
Like, not even the guys above him, and even some of these younger guys. I think have more potential. I don't know. I think he's solid. He's just. I worry he's getting a little bit overrated. And I don't know. It's something. I don't have something good to say about it. Like, what I don't know. It's just something about Derek Carr that I'm kind of just worried about. And still, I have him 10th. I still have him as top 10 quarterback. I'm not that worried. It's just I had him 6th. I don't think he's that, and I think I've seen him go too much there. And okay, one thing is his accuracy is not very good. That's what worries me. He's 25th in the league in accuracy last year. Like based off a couple, not actual number. Like there's different stats here. It's in that's based off of too. If people drop balls, it kind of takes that into effect. All that kind of stuff. So the thing is also his interception percentage is way down. Like his luck with the interceptions is really good. Like he should be throwing more interceptions.
Right, a few more.
There's just things like that I've seen these different, these different metrics they use. I'm just kind of worried. That
you do have to think that
it's just there's a lot of there.
And we are. I mean, he's a young guy. We are banking on the fact that we think he's going to take. I think he's going to
if he plays like he has been. Right. That's my worry.
So you don't think he's going to take that next step?
Not as much, maybe. Like that's why I ranked him below like James. It's not like a lot of guys, but I ranked him below like Jameis now, and obviously Russell.
Yeah, and to your point, to help you out a little bit, also like a lot of these guys, even a Phillip Rivers. Mariota, Jameis Winston.
Yep.
Every single one of those guys has gotten a huge influx of talent on their team, whether it's from the fact that they got guys back from injury or the draft.
Yep.
And really, Derek Carr didn't get anyone. In fact, he actually got they replaced Murray, so his backfield should be, the younger guys are a year ahead. So I don't know how much has changed. So his numbers could stay pretty much pat where all those other guys have the ability to jump above him. So I do get that.
Yeah, I'm not telling people not to draft him. I'm just not as sold on him as a top end talent yet. We'll see what happens. I would take him. I'd be fine with it, but I don't know. It's just kind of something I've been looking at recently and just kind of was worried about it a little bit. I'm just slightly worried that maybe he's slightly overrated. Yeah. Well, that's it.
It's tough in those too because you really have to look for who's going to have the edge. And like we said, from 6 to 15, those guys are incredibly close.
Like, I think he's right there with everybody.
So it's very easy to drop or gain in these situations.
Number 10 for us is Jameis. I had him 8th. You had him 10th.
Yep.
It's another guy, like, you can look at we talk about him a lot and look at his numbers. He has solid numbers, but it's more of, he has some more talent there now. Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard. And we just kind of expect him to make that jump like Carr could do. That's the problem with some of these guys. We're just thinking, okay, they're in the league 3-4 years. Now is the time to make the jump. And so we're ranking it that way. Are they going to make that jump? Because in reality, why do we have these guys ranked ahead of Rivers and Stafford and those kind of guys? It's just we expect that. Those guys, we know what they are. We think these guys are going to jump. Yeah. That's pretty much it with Winston.
And where we get that from as well, they're these guys' numbers, because there's plenty of guys that don't necessarily get better. Yep. These guys have improved on key stats for multiple years in a row. And now the fact that you get more talent on your team as well to help you out, there's no reason why you shouldn't make that jump. Compared to a Rivers, Stafford, who are very viable options, but you kind of know what you're getting with them.
You know what they are, which we can jump to the next one. It's Rivers at number 11. You have him 9th. I've dropped him a bit. He's 14th for me now. So he's dropped below some of these other guys. We talked about this on the trending down.
Yeah, I think he dropped, after I heard about Mike Williams, he did drop a spot for me. So I kind of kept him stay pat, even though he lost, his kind of prized rookie, it seems like, perhaps.
Yeah, and it's more of, I'm just kind of...
But he does get Keenan Allen back. I like Hunter Henry. So a lot of guys that I think will be good. So that's why he's a little higher on mine.
Yeah, he dropped a little bit, but I've said, like we said, this range is so interchangeable.
Very, very close. This is just last year. From 10th to 15th.
Yeah.
We're only separated by 4 points.
Yeah, and see, down to this range, if you're any of these guys are fine.
Yeah.
They really are.
So, it really is the difference between missing a quarter and...
And I like Rivers. He dropped below... Let's see, like the next one coming up is Stafford. Stafford's our 12th player, which we both ranked 12th. So he moved below Stafford for me. And I feel, because this is why I moved him below Stafford, is... Rivers is completely, we know what he is. I think Stafford could still make that jump. Stafford's my Matt Ryan candidate for this year. If there's going to be a guy who's been, it's not the 3rd, 4th year guy, it's a guy who's been around a little bit longer, still young enough. It's Stafford. Yeah. You can have that 1 year where you're like, oh wow, where'd this come from? Stafford's my guy for that this year.
I do like that, and I wish I had more of a reason to give him a push, because I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential on that team. Yep. Both wide receivers were hot and cold. You got Amir Abdullah back. From injury, who is a very good pass catcher, and they already had Theo Riddick. Yep. So pretty much he has a ton of people to throw to, and then his biggest possible target could be Eric Ebron.
Yeah, that's the big key here. Yeah. That's why he moved out of Rivers. It's like they're very similar players to me. It's just Stafford, I think, has a little bit more potential. Rivers, I know what Rivers is, and even with all the weapons, how much more is Rivers really going to jump? He's only had one top 10 season, I think, in the last 5. Before that, he was top 10 a lot.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened as much lately. I want to see Keenan Allen out there. Really, I want to see him out there. I think he's going to be fine. I want to see him out there. They should have good weapons. Tyrell Williams is good. Mike Williams, I don't know if we can expect much from him, but then you still got Gates in the red zone and Hunter Henry.
Which are great.
There's a lot of options. So he's 11th that's a good.
And just plugging my guy, there was a good report on Allen, talking about how he looks explosive and he's moving very well. So it makes me feel better about my pick of him being higher than the majority of people doing ADP.
Yeah. So Rivers was 11th. We said Stafford at 12. We went over that a little bit. And I think he has that Matt Ryan potential. That's kind of what I'm looking. I'm not going to predict that, but if there's a player down here that can do that, it's Stafford. He's that right age to do that. Number 13 for us was Marcus Mariota. He was 14th for you. He was 11th for me. So I moved him up ahead of Stafford. I moved him up ahead of Rivers. I like his situation. I think he's been a very good quarterback, very efficient, with three solid receivers with a okay tight end. I'm not a big Delaney Walker fan anymore, but he's solid enough. He's a good option for him with a good running game. We talked about Tennessee a long time ago. We really like this team.
Yeah.
And still, this isn't crazy. I have him 11th. He's 13th for us overall. It's not again, he's the same range. I'm starting to want, the reason I have him below maybe Jameis, they'll always be compared because of their draft class. It's just, I always think Mariota's probably going to be more efficient and not as big of numbers maybe as Jameis will do. Jameis is going to throw the ball around, get maybe a lot more yards, but he also probably throw more picks, more touchdowns that way. Mariota has a better running game around him. He just doesn't need to do it.
Yeah.
I think Mariota is probably a better quarterback than Winston. I think that could be possible. like an actual better quarterback.
I think you could easily make
in that way. It just don't fantasy wise. It might not always translate.
Yeah,
like it didn't translate for Tom Brady for years. Like necessarily, he was always good, but until that Randy Moss crazy year where that's where he really jumped up.
Yeah.
So,
and are they really going to have to rely on Mariota yet?
They don't need to
with Murray and Henry. So even if one goes down, you still have the other. That run is really, really good. And yes, he does have more weapons as far as wide receivers. You have obviously the rookie coming in, and then they also, signed Eric Decker.
Yep.
So they look really, really good. And you still have Rashard Matthews there. So there's a lot that I like about him. I'm just not fully sold where I could jump him above these guys.
Yeah, that's where I'm at yet too with
But
him.
I tell you, weeks 5 through 12, he was phenomenal.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he bookended them with, sub 10-point outings.
That's the worry. That's why he's down here, is because he's going to have weeks where they don't need him.
Yeah.
They don't. The running game's going to get going, and they just might not need Mariota to do much. So that's kind of where his problem might be, because that's not their run first team. So
yeah, and he's going to be one of those guys that is probably going to bounce around in these. He's definitely going to have weeks where he's a top 10 guy. He's going to have probably many weeks, and then he's also going to have a few where you're just going to fall absolutely flat.
Yep. That's my worry with him. I really like him a lot, but maybe we'll be surprised and he won't have many of those weeks. And
he might not. I mean, he really was impressive when he was playing well. He was deadly with accuracy. I mean, he still can get out of the pocket and run. He's deceptively fast. Everyone knows that from his days in Oregon, even. And all the people around him, he really does have one of the deepest wide. I don't know about most talented,
but there's
Rashard Matthews, Decker,
Davis,
Corey Davis,
I like
Walker.
We liked that team before they got Decker. So
yeah. I just love their run game so much that I think it hurts his fantasy value, but as a quarterback, I think it's going to really help his development.
Yeah. All right, number 14 for us as we get close to the end here is going to be Dak Prescott. We actually both had him 13th, but the way the list works, he's 14th consensus.
I have a feeling this is where everyone's going to go off the rails and hate us.
Yeah, I do too. And, it's just, he had a good rookie season. He did, yes.
Phenomenal rookie season.
But he had, this thing,
his numbers were so skewed.
I just don't know yet. This is where I really need to see another season, because was it all that offensive line just gave him all the time in the world? He didn't have to worry about much. He had an amazing running game. It's going to make any player look better. So I need to see another year from Dak. And so I'm not taking a chance in getting him for anything more than, any of these other guys. I want these other guys who are more proven. Dak could be better than all these guys, and we're going to look stupid. But that's where I get more conservative. And I say, okay, 1 year. It's only been one season. I wasn't on Winston after his rookie year. He had a good rookie year, or any of these other guys. I wanted to wait and see what they did. Like a more proven option at quarterback. If you get another year of it, yeah, then he's there. But that's it. That's all. My worry with him is just I want to see it again. Is it all that offensive line? Offensive line, are they going to be as good? They lost a couple guys. Is Zeke going to be suspended for a couple games? Well, I just don't know yet. So he's still a good option. I have no problem if people put him up at the top of this grouping of players that we have. But I'm not going to be the one to do that.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like his numbers were too clean. He had too clean of a stat sheet in order for me to predict that it's going to happen again. I mean, the fact that he threw almost 68% of his passes were complete is wonderful to see from a rookie, but is also meaning, they're trying to load the box, trying to stop that run game, and he's probably hitting a bunch of short passes. He does get Dez Bryant back for a large portion of the year he missed last year, which is also a good thing for him. But he had 23 TDs, only 4 interceptions. Yeah. That seems just like that's way too low. So he's going to lose a few points on interceptions going up. And on top of that, he had 6 touchdowns rushing, which he could repeat again perhaps.
Yep.
But there's no real reason for him. He never had to force it. So if those situations don't present themselves, which it very well might not, he could drop a couple touchdowns in there. Yep. So it's going to be very, very shaky. It doesn't mean he's not going to be good. It doesn't mean his Dallas will be bad, because they won't.
I just don't want him to be my quarterback. I just don't want to take that chance yet.
And I know he seems like he's a low on our rankings, and I think really, everyone that I rated ahead of him, I would take above him.
I would, completely.
But a lot of people are going to have him ranked in the top 10. I think
he's 13th fantasy pros. He is 13th in fantasy pros consensus.
I thought he was going to be top 10.
We actually both ranked him 13th. Just the way the consensus works, he was 14th for us. So, it's he's fine. He's a fine option. He's one of those. That's why you can wait on quarterback, because I think there's a lot of good options.
Yeah.
That's rounded out. Number 15 for us is Cam Newton. He's 15th for me, 17th for you. Cam this is even ranking him 15th is just kind of a potential, like hoping he bounces back to what he was before. Because really, other than that 2015, he's been just an okay quarterback. He's been fine. The running stats are always what puts him up there. And you worry that with the injuries he's had, that they're not going to run him as much. McCaffrey in there, they're going to do different things. Curtis Samuel even, he's that same kind of player as McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. It's like they just want to do something different. Stewart's still there. Stewart's going to get touchdowns. I'm fine if you want to put Cam as your quarterback. I get it. He has, I mean, out of the players down here, he probably has some of the most potential to be out of the guys in this 10 through 15. I think Cam is the one that has the most potential to be a number one guy. I just never see it happening again. He has that talent. He did, at least. I just wonder if these injuries have piled up and the running's not going to be there. He has it with the run. If somehow he comes out and he's running the ball like he used to and getting touchdowns that way, yeah, then we're way low on him, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to say. First of all, I don't think he has the greatest situation around him right now.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, you're coming off of a very tumultuous year. Their offense looked so bad. And he might just be a better athlete than he is quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to have to catch up, because those rushing yards are just, they're going to continue to go down, because you want to keep this guy healthy. There's no way that he can, as phenomenal as he is, as big as he is, the amount he ran in the past 5 years was tremendous for a quarterback. And you saw what it took its toll even on RG3, on anyone that runs the ball that much. So last year I believe he finished 19th overall in quarterbacks.
Yeah, way down there.
The year before that he was number one, but the year before that he was 17th again.
Yep.
And then he did bounce around, and he was quite good actually the years before that. But once again, those were heavy on the runs where he was. I mean, you'd have 8-10 touchdowns rushing. I mean, it was pretty crazy. So I think he's going to bounce out, and I think he turned to form. But I think it's going to take him a year to really figure out how to stay in the pocket, and especially when your number 2 guy is Funchess, that hasn't shown anything. Yeah. Olsen seems like he might be declining. You're putting a lot of eggs in the McCaffrey basket, which I think he's a very good rookie, but he's still a rookie.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot to jump him past where we have him, which we are thinking that he's going to have a better year already.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what's going to happen with him. Not really. I don't want to take the chance on it.
No, I wouldn't either.
I like those other options that you can know what they're going to do. So that's why he's 15th. And I think that wraps up our top 15 for this episode. We're going to get the rest of the players out there on our next full-length episode, which will go 16 through pretty much probably the rest of the starters. We won't take too much time once you get past 26, 27, but we'll rank them all, show you who we think. There's still some good values out there, I think. There's a couple guys that have the potential to jump up to maybe around the top 10 range. Not much, probably more than that, but there's some guys, especially 2 QB leagues, you need to pay attention, because these guys are starters in 2 QB leagues. So
yeah, absolutely.
You got to know them all. But we will talk to you guys next time.